When our parents departed, leaving my younger brother behind, and I, in solitude, presented him with a proposal he was unable to decline, which would result in some of the most exhilarating days of our existence. My name is Ava, and I have never envisioned to discover myself in such a setting. My younger sibling, Leo, and I experienced a profound bond during my formative years. He was 5 years my junior and was forever the one I cherished. Following the safeguarding, protected from tormentors and aided in academic pursuits. Yet, as the days unfolded, life started to pull at us. I ventured in various directions, making my way to attended college and subsequently entered the workforce during Leo's high school years, endeavoring to discern whom we wished to exist. Our parents were perpetually occupied with challenging professions that allowed scant moments for kin. They were not unfocused, yet often missing, and once I reached the age where I could take the wheel and I assumed many responsibilities around the house, regarding the duty of overseeing Leo's well-being. It has never seemed like an obligation. Yet, he found himself delightful company, consistently cheerful and prepared to satisfy. Caring for him was not a burden. It was inherently woven into the fabric of who we existed. Yet, everything transformed once I departed from my previous residence. At the age of 23, I had settled into a humble apartment across. The small town lay nestled between rolling hills, its charm evident in every cobblestone street and quaint storefront. I did not allocate as much time to home as I ought to have, and guilt gnawed at me, gaze upon me whenever I pondered the extent of my was absent from Leo's existence. The untroubled, the younger sibling I once knew was slowly transforming into a person I hardly acknowledged, and the pain cut deeper than I felt compelled to confess. One weekend, the parents mentioned their plans to be absent, embarking on a 3-day business journey, bidding farewell to Leo, isolated. My mother described her voice as rich and resonant, of great importance. "Are you able to stay by his side?" she inquired. "He is sufficiently mature to manage matters, yet the awareness of your presence would," I agreed, primarily, to uplift my spirits, from a place of regret. It wasn't as though I possessed. "Is there anything significant planned, particularly regarding expenditures?" Spending time with Leo would serve to connect the space that separates us. Upon my arrival, Leo welcomed me at the threshold with the unmistakable charm of a crooked smile. "Stranger, It has been quite a while since our paths last crossed." With a playful grin, he pulled me into a brief embrace. Sure, I replied, giving an exaggerated eye roll, with a smile. "Did you miss me?" He smiled broadly and stepped aside to allow me to enter. The house looked precisely as it always had, tidy yet infused with a subtle scent of life. The scent of lemon cleanser wafted through the air. As I stepped inside, felt oddly surreal, as if coming back to my teenage years. That initial, under the cloak of night, we lost ourselves in hours of conversation, reconnecting deeply. Leo conversed about academia, his companions, and his aspirations for higher education, as I contributed insights into my own existence. It was a gratifying experience, reminiscent of bygone times, to bridge the chasm that had developed between us gradually. Yet, it appeared that nothing had shifted. Yet, as the evening unfolded, I found myself observe particulars regarding Leo that I possessed, once disregarded. He had ceased to be a young boy. He had grown taller, his shoulders broadened, and his voice took on a deeper resonance. He radiated a calm assurance and an unprecedented level of maturity that I had not encountered before. And this caught me off guard. I found myself grappling with reconnect with the young soul I once shielded, with the young man positioned opposite. Following our evening meal, Leo suggested that he made a comment while watching a movie, pleased as he perused the selections on the television. "Not one of those the dramas that captivate you." Pardon my playful jab, while appearing to be affronted. "My decision in films is flawless." He grinned and we ultimately settled on a comedy that we had previously watched countless occasions prior. As the beginning, with the titles rolling, he settled onto the couch. Beside me, he extended his lengthy legs. For a time, it was effortless to cast aside all distractions and simply embrace the present. We found joy in well-known quips, repeated phrases we both recalled by heart, and found comfort at a leisurely rhythm. Yet, occasionally, I caught Leo's gaze fixed upon me, not in a peculiar or unsettling way, yet with a fervor that sent delightful ripples through my stomach. I brushed it aside, convincing myself I was merely engaging in excessive contemplation. Ultimately, he is my brother. The way he gazed at it was not peculiar to me. Was it present? As the credits rolled, Leo stretched his limbs and let out a deep yawn. "I'm heading out for a drink," he said. Rising to my feet, I make my way toward the kitchen. I lingered on the couch, lost in thought, drifting aimlessly, as I scrolled through my phone. Moments later, his voice resonated through the air. "Hey, Ava, do you desire anything?" "Certainly," I replied. When he returned, he was a revelation. With 2 cups of cola in hand, he settled into his seat. Once more, this time with a touch more proximity, and passed one to me. His knee grazed against my own, sending a peculiar shiver through me that I found difficult to articulate. "Thank you," I uttered, striving to preserve my tone level. He shrugged and took a sip. "Not an issue." We lingered in silence for a time, accompanied solely by the soft murmur of the television filled the room. I attempted to concentrate on my phone, yet his presence lingered, oddly captivating. I could sense the warmth emanating from him and the rare brush of his knee against it belonged to me. I kept telling myself it was insignificant, it's merely a matter of closeness. Yet, the restless part of me lingered in uncertainty. Leo interjected suddenly, interrupting the silence. "What is existence like in the vast city? Do you ever feel a sense of longing for, was it here?" His inquiry carried a nonchalant air, yet the intensity with which his gaze locked onto mine it gives me pause. "I mean, yes, at times I confessed as I set my phone aside, yet the circumstances have shifted. I truly relish the comfort of my own space, you know." He nodded and reclined against the couch. "I get that. Nevertheless, it feels peculiar not having you here. The place feels more subdued in your absence." I offered. A faint smile graces my lips. "I long for this place. At times," I remarked. "Yet, circumstances evolve. Individuals mature." "Indeed," he murmured. The voice was softer, tinged with a sense of longing. "I imagine if they do. There's something intriguing about the manner." He remarked that it made my chest tighten. As the night unfolded, we continued, engaging in dialogue, sharing laughter over the past, memories, and playfully bantering concerning inconsequential matters. The tension I had experienced previously slowly vanished, supplanted by a comforting, the warmth evoked memories of just how much I overlooked this. I longed for him. As the weekend drew to a close, as I made my way home, I found myself at a awakening. Certain connections run too deep to remain shattered, regardless of the distance between us. Existence. Leo was more than just my younger brother. He served as my anchor, the sole unwavering element in my life. As I returned to my apartment, a promise lingering in the air, I promised myself that I would not allow so much moment pass before encountering him once more. I cast a brief look at him, observing how he appeared, buried in concentration. His forehead bore a subtle array of wrinkles, and he wore a serious expression that I had never encountered previously. It rendered him to seem more seasoned and composed, which caused unease. In that fleeting instant, I glimpsed him not just like my younger brother, yet in his own way, individual, fully equipped with his own obstacles and intricacies. That understanding bewildered me, and I shifted gently to break the stillness. "Indeed," I responded, maintaining a cheerful tone. "Before long, you'll find yourself on your way out of here. University, fresh acquaintances, and a distinct way of living." "Perhaps," he remarked, with a casual shrug. "Yet, it lacks the Leo essence. You have consistently been a person with whom I could engage in conversation, you see, even in moments when times were exceedingly challenging." I furrowed my brow. His brow furrowed in confusion. What do you mean? He paused, searching for clarity, his gaze darting to the ground, before coming back to me. Just after father began my full-time career, and my mother flourished, overwhelmed with activity. It seemed as though I was primarily engaged in yours, yet your presence was a constant. You simplified everything. His words resonated deeply with me, and shame enveloped me in relentless waves. I had no inkling of the extent to which my absence had affected things, him. The extent to which he had depended on me, never once articulating. Thus, I offered my apologies. Leo, I murmured. I didn't. He shrugged, coming to the realization of your feelings. Once more, yet a subtle smile tugged at the corner of his mouth. It is not yours, blame. You are managing your own. Challenges may arise, yet I am truly pleased to have you here. In that moment, I found myself in agreement, extending my hand to gently press his shoulder. And you see, I'm always here if you need me, aren't I? Indeed, he remarked, a broader smile spreading across his face. I comprehend. For a brief moment, all felt as it should, effortless, simple. Yet, as my hand lay upon his, as I rested my gaze upon my shoulder, a sharp awareness enveloped me. An electric tension hung in the air as our eyes locked. An element of tenderness flickered in his expression, prompting me to instinctively retreat. My cheeks flushed with warmth as I averted my gaze. In any case, I elaborated, clearing my throat. It seems we ought to slumber. It is growing late. Indeed, engaging in a standing stretch. A splendid notion. He advanced toward the steps, stopping at the base to glance back at me. Good night, Ava. Good night, I replied. He attempted a smile as he ascended the stairs. I softly breathed out, only to discover that I had been holding my breath. My musings were confused, and I couldn't dispel the thought that a shift had occurred in the dynamic between us, yet I found myself unable to identify its essence. I switched off the television and I made my way to the kitchen to rinse my glass. The dwelling was eerily silent, accompanied only by the refrigerator's hum interrupted the quietude. I lingered by the window as time passes, I find myself captivated by the silhouettes of trees, dance beneath the silvery glow of the moon. Thoughts swirling rapidly, filled with concepts I struggled to assemble. At the moment I finally settled into bed, I found it difficult to drift into slumber. I remained awake for what felt like an eternity, gazing at the ceiling loomed above, as I endeavored to unravel the complexities of an odd unease that had settled in, all things considered. Leo's words, his lingering presence, gazes, the manner in which he spoke to me. Everything appeared meaningful, yet I was unable to elucidate the reasons behind this. With the dawn of a new day, I stirred from my slumber, to the delicate strains of music rising from the heart of the home. Sitting up, enveloped in a haze of sleep, I glanced at the clock and was taken aback by observe the hour it had grown to. The sun had already begun its descent. Ascended to its pinnacle, I swiftly donned my attire and set forth, descending, tracing the echo of melody. In the kitchen, Leo found himself lost in a gentle hum, dancing to a melody playing softly on the radio as crafting the morning meal. He was attired, dressed comfortably in a t-shirt and sweatpants, with his hair tousled from slumber. He evoked memories of the little boy I once knew, to provoke and nurture, yet he also refrained. He exuded a sense of maturity and self-assurance, which took me by surprise. Good morning. He extended a warm greeting. I gazed upward as I made my arrival. I prepared eggs. Care for a taste? Of course, I responded, taking a seat, seated at the table. Thank you. He placed a dish sat down in front of me, taking a seat across from myself. His effortless smile rendered it challenging to maintain concentration on my reflections. In pursuit of as we dined in serene isolation, the gentle sunlight pouring through the windows, casting a warm, golden glow across the chamber. This is good, Leo remarked, suddenly, shattering the stillness. Possessing your presence evokes a sense of nostalgia, reminiscent of days gone by. I nodded with a subtle smile. Indeed, It does. However, even as the words left my lips, I couldn't dispel an unsettling feeling lingered in the air. The once effortless bond we shared, delighted, had been substituted with something. I found myself at a loss for words. Something was created. My chest tightened, and my mind raced. I understood that I could not overlook it, regardless of the circumstances. How diligently I endeavored. The morning unfolded in a haze of trivial duties and everyday rituals, yet the unspoken tension between us lingered on. Lowell seemed relaxed, humming a tune to the radio played softly in the background as he meticulously tidied up the kitchen. I busied myself with anything that came my way. Discover anything to stave off my thoughts from meandering. Each glance, each utterance, the weight that hung between us was more pronounced than it had ever been, yet I found myself at a loss for words. As the moments passed, when lunch arrived, a wave of agitation washed over me. Lowell suggested viewing an alternative film, yet the notion of remaining still rendered me uneasy. How about we go for a stroll? I proposed, considering the benefits of fresh air might assist in clearing my thoughts. Leo smiled broadly. That sounds wonderful. Allow me to retrieve my footwear. We ventured outside and strolled through the serene neighborhood, which was enveloped by towering trees and neatly manicured lawns. It was the kind of a place where time appeared to stand still, regardless of the passage of time. We experienced an easygoing chat next to each other regarding the classes he teaches, my work, and the neighbors around us, a dog bursting with enthusiasm. It seemed instinctive, once more, as if finding our way back to a familiar cadence hadn't uncovered in ages. Even as we shared laughter and conversation, I found it impossible to resist, yet observe how his shoulder grazed, in opposition to my own, or how his gaze remained, when he believed I was unaware. I conveyed myself, a mere reflection of my thoughts, unleashed and untamed. Yet, beneath the surface, I found myself unable to shun the truth. As we drew near to the park at the end of the street, a captivating sight of the creaking swings and the basketball court rekindled memories of my youth, recollections. Leo perched on one of the swings, his elongated limbs nearly grazing he stood on the ground, beckoning me to come closer. For a fleeting moment, I paused before descending. I settled into the swing beside him, the soft creak of metal chains as I leaned back. This location remains untouched by time. At all, he said, his voice laced with nostalgia washed over me. Yeah, I mumbled, allowing memories wash over me like a tide. The moment was heavy, filled with silent expressions and focus I was unable to somewhat articulate. A faint smile graced my lips as I continued. It seems as though we dedicated a significant portion of our childhood here. This is due to, we did, he replied with a chuckle, perpetually urged me forward on the swings, despite my assurances to you that I could handle it on my own. I returned the smile, for you would invariably leap off and sink into the mire. He let out a soft chuckle and shook his head, the crown of his thoughts. Mother compelled you to promise to hold on to me, distanced from chaos. His laughter gradually diminished, and his eyes wandered toward the horizon. The expression took on a somber quality. You were perpetually keeping an eye on me. Indeed, I replied with kindness. You are my younger sibling. In that fleeting instant, he spoke. Silence prevails. His countenance was thoughtful, his gaze sharpened somewhat. Then, with a sense of trepidation, he included, have you ever pondered how different things might have been if Dad had there been more presence? The inquiry caught me by surprise. I gazed upon him, uncertain about how to respond. Following after a moment of hesitation, I finally responded, I suppose. Yet you emerged quite well, you understand. His approval is not necessary for you to take a moment to feel proud of yourself. His gaze locked onto my own, and for a fleeting moment, the unrefined, the fragility reflected in his gaze tightened my heart. Pain. Thank you, he murmured gently. This holds great significance. We remained silent for a momentarily linger, permitting the stillness to make yourself comfortable. The faint echoes of the park was alive with the scent that filled the air. whispering foliage, the melodic chatter of birds, accompanied by a faint, delicate squeak from the swings. It was tranquil, yet I could still carry the burden of his past, whispers lingering in the air between us. Lowell ultimately stood tall, brushing off his hands on the fabric of his slacks. "We ought to return," he uttered. "The chill is settling in." "Indeed," I spoke, standing up and joining in walk alongside him. The journey back felt more extended than typical. The quiet pause that lingers, the presence of us had shifted from solace to burden, with concepts that neither of us understood how to convey. When we finally arrived at the home, I was eager to withdraw to the guest room serves as a sanctuary for reflection and mental clarity. However, Leo possessed varying concepts. "Shall we engage in how about a game?" he proposed, reaching for a controller, with a wicked smile. "This evening, the defeated cleans the dishes." "You're on," I declared, grateful for the diversion. In the upcoming, for an hour, we became completely immersed in the game with vibrant rivalry and flashes of joyful sounds, lifting our souls. As is often the case, Leo emerged victorious in the majority of the rounds, yet I succeeded in acquiring a few triumphs, much to his chagrin. Ultimately, the tension had eased, if only for the moment. I remain unengaged in the task at hand. "The dishes," I remarked, folding my arms in feigned contempt as we switched off the console. He let out a hearty laugh. "Very well, I shall grant you permission," exonerated this time. The remainder of the evening unfolded without distinction. Dinner was served. We deliberated on our intentions for the following day, and then proceeded with our usual bedtime routine ceremony. Yet, as the residence transformed, as the night deepened, a hush fell over the surroundings. The peculiar atmosphere from earlier has resurfaced. Despite my utmost attempts to disregard it, I found myself unable to do so, dislodge the sensation that something was shifting between us. As the night deepened, I reclined in bed, gazing up at the ceiling. I caught a faint squeak emanating from the floorboards, beyond the threshold of my sanctuary. My heart raced, and I halted, attuned to the stillness. The sound of footsteps drew near. Then came a gentle rap. Ava Leo's voice carried a hint of hesitation. I sat up, my heart racing. "Indeed. May I enter?" I paused, my gaze lingering on the clock. It was late, and the house stood in silence. Stillness enveloped the space, broken only by the soft murmur of the icebox beneath. "What seems to be the issue?" "I simply require to converse with you." He spoke in a hushed tone, barely above a softly spoken. I inhaled gently and moved my legs dangling from the edge of the bed. "Very well, step inside." The door let out a haunting creak as it opened, revealing. Leo entered, his expression a mask of inscrutability. He closed it firmly behind him. He reclined against it, lingered for a moment before traversing the room and perched on the edge of the bed. What is happening?" I asked, maintaining a steady tone, calm yet burdened by the tightness in my abdomen. He hesitated before responding, maintaining his focus on the ground, and his shoulders were tense. "At long last," he confessed, "I've been reflecting deeply recently concerning our relationship. In relation to the extent of your cruelty to me." His words pierced my heart race, and I exerted myself to uphold a calm disposition. "Leo, you are my brother. I have spoken with great care. Undoubtedly, we hold significant value to one another. Such is the essence of family. It is not merely that," he murmured just above, a gentle murmur. "You have consistently stood by. You understand me in a way that no one else can." "Leo," I began, but he cut me off. "He wishes to avoid any awkwardness. Respond promptly. However, I require you to comprehend the depth of your significance in my life. I can't imagine my life without you." His words lingered in the atmosphere, suspended with meaning that eluded my understanding. As the unspoken tension peaked, I gazed at him, my thoughts a chaotic swirl. "Leo," I softly whispered, my voice tender and soothing, yet compelling. I don't believe you. Please recognize the challenges I am facing. To hear. His expression wavered and his brows knitted in concentration. I am not attempting to add a layer of difficulty, he commented. With a sense of tranquility, I found it necessary to express this, to release it. I inhaled deeply and sprinted forward, fingers weaving through my hair, seeking to soothe my. Your significance to me is profound as well, admitted with trepidation. Yet we are, as siblings, Leo, we have always been there for each other. For each other, as that is what a. His eyes became somewhat clouded. It's more than that, he replied, my voice trembled. You are aware of it. I quivered, my head and chest constricted. You are utterly perplexed, I remarked. Yet, even as the words escaped my lips, they resonated, empty. We have each endured so much, particularly with my parents absent so frequently. It's instinctive to experience a sense of closeness. Due to this, he contended that there was no confusion. His voice has now transformed, more at peace. This is the essence of my emotions, and I recognize that this situation deviates from the ordinary, yet I cannot feign its absence. I rose from my bed and started to pace back and forth, the small chamber, striving to create an understanding of it all. My reflections were entangled, trapped in the yearning to comfort him and the all-encompassing feeling that a grave misstep had occurred. I pivoted to confront him and spoke with conviction. Leo, we can't continue down this path. Dialogue. It is unjust to any of us. His expression faltered. A look of anguish crossed his features. He murmured, I'm not requesting for anything. I simply felt compelled to share this with you, understood? The genuine earnestness in his tone left me in awe. I inhaled deeply and settled back into my seat, my shoulders drooping beneath the burden of the circumstances. I find myself at a loss for words, I admitted, softly. There's no need for you to, he continued, his voice resonated with strength. I couldn't hold it back to myself any longer. The atmosphere in the room was palpable, confining. The atmosphere was thick and it is challenging to draw in a breath. The atmosphere crackled with anticipation. The space that lay between us was nearly unbearable. I longed. I had the ability to mend it all. I wished to return to an era when circumstances were. It seemed simpler, yet I found myself at a loss for how to proceed. It is imperative that we discover a path to progress. Ultimately, declared, you are my brother, Leo. That will never change. He nodded slowly, yet the doubt lingered in his gaze. Persevered. I cannot bear the thought of losing you. He admitted. Only you possess the ability to truly comprehend my essence. You are not. You are about to lose me. I offered him solace, maintaining a serene tone. Nevertheless, it is essential that we require to set clear limits. We are unable to maintain, fixating on it. The stillness the weight of the atmosphere was stifling, yet it stirred something within. Crucial. Following an extended silence, Leo rose to his feet, advancing with caution and, gradually. I'm sorry, he murmured. I never meant to create that impression for you. It was an uncomfortable moment. I acknowledged this, I replied, softly, my voice warm. I'm not angry at. We must proceed with caution, Leo, for the two of us. He nodded again, and halted at the threshold. He remained, momentarily suspended in uncertainty, as if lost in thought. The decision looms, to remain or to depart. As he, at last emerged, the soft click of the door closing behind him resonated like a relief. Yet, the constriction in my chest continued to ache. I remained seated for what felt like an eternity, gazing at the expanse surrounding me, seeking comprehension. I was at a loss for what had just transpired. I couldn't quite express it, yet I sensed something. The dynamic between us had shifted. Something was transforming, and I sensed it. The morning unfolded with an unusual stillness. The house exuded a distinct aura, as if the atmosphere had shifted dramatically overnight. Leo did not accompany me for breakfast, yet I did. I refrained from imposing my will upon him. I persuaded myself that he, much like myself, required a bit of space, and that circumstances would revert to their usual state in due course. Yet, as the hours drifted by, the silence that lingered between us grew denser, more impossible to overlook. As the afternoon unfolded, I had resolved to initiate a conversation. Found him in his chamber, resting on the edge of his bed, headphones enveloping his ears. Upon observing my knocking, he took them off and offered me a subtle, hesitant. With a smile, I stepped inside and greeted, "Hello, how are you holding up?" He merely shrugged. His gaze dropped to the floor. "I'm fine," he mumbled. I took a seat beside him, creating a delicate gap in between. "We should feel at ease. I confess that it feels strange at the moment, yet I have no desire for it to maintain that state. We must put in the effort to achieve this. Out. I wish it weren't this way," he added, his voice scarcely rising above a whisper. "I find myself uncertain about the solution." "We shall resolve the matter," I instructed him with a subtle smile. "Though it may require patience, we shall arrive." He gazed at me, his articulation softening. "Thank you," he said with sincerity, "for maintaining your composure. I am your sister, and I expressed plainly. I will forever hold your return." After a stretch of days, the tension seemed to dissipate, yet only. With a gentle progression, our conversation continued, shifting towards more uplifting motifs, his courses, his friends, and arrangements for the. As I finally stepped out of his room, the weekend lingered in the air. The burden upon my chest had transformed, just a touch. Yet, as the house fell into silence, once more that night, I found myself unable to dispel an unsettling sense that something was amiss. Leo's expressions, his emotions, and everything that entails, occurred in the preceding several. The days lingered in my mind, weaving a tapestry of thoughts that captivated me, filled with trepidation and unease. Regardless of no matter how hard I attempted to convince myself otherwise, I sensed that this was far from finished. That evening, the home lay in silence, yet my thoughts were anything but. I found myself lying awake, my gaze fixed upon the upper limit of my thoughts. The thrill of racing echoed in the air as Leo's remarks resonated once more. Finished. His honesty, his openness, and the weight of all that he possessed. I acknowledged it. I repeatedly reassured myself that all things shall revert to their usual state, that this was undeniably a challenging time, that we would eventually move on. Yet, within the depths of my being, I was uncertain. Then, as the clock struck midnight, I caught a whisper of footsteps echoing softly in the hallway. The chest tightened as they approached, pausing just beyond my threshold. I propped myself up, I held my breath and waited. Then, there came a soft, tentative rap, reminiscent of the night before. Ava. Leo's voice resonated, hardly perceptible. I inhaled deeply. I compelled myself to maintain my composure. "Yeah," I whispered. "May I join you?" Within, my heart raced. I faltered, gazing at the clock. The hour was late and the home lay shrouded in darkness and silence, yet an inner force restrained me from transforming him down. "All right," I responded gently. "Come inside." The door creaked open, revealing Leo entered the room. He seemed restless, his hands delved deep into his pockets, his shoulders slightly hunched. He came to a pause for a moment before shutting the door, leaning against it for a moment, prior to shifting to perch on the brink of my bed. "I apologize," he whispered. I come to understand that my presence is misplaced." "It's all right," I uttered swiftly, in spite of my racing heart pulse. "What occupies your thoughts?" He hesitated. Once more, his gaze was drawn to the ground. I have been reflecting on my previous words. Previously, I find myself concerned that I may have complicated matters up. "You didn't," I asserted with conviction, leaning onward. "Leo, I assured you we would find a solution. It may take some time, but I understand," he uttered, his voice trembling. "Yet, it is challenging. I find myself ensnared within the confines of my own thoughts, uncertain of the way forward, how to escape." I extended my hand and softly gripped his shoulder. You are not alone, I murmured to him softly. We shall go through this together. He raised his gaze to meet gaze, capturing my attention. The fervor in his gaze elicited an unusual tightening within my heart. You have always been present in favor of me, he replied, his voice rich with feelings, particularly in solitude. I find myself uncertain about my next steps in your absence. There is no need for contemplation. I spoke of it, maintaining a steady tone. I shall remain right here for an extended period. In that moment, silence enveloped us. The quietude, the atmosphere surrounding us was dense, laden with emotions that remained unvoiced by any of us. Leo's expression was unguarded and open, that I had never encountered before. It departed. I find myself utterly speechless. I simply desire. Everything will be fine again, he said, his voice quivering ever so slightly. I don't want to lose you. You won't, I assured, yet my voice wavered in this moment. However, Leo, it is essential for us to establish clear boundaries. We must not allow this takeover. He nodded slowly, an unsettling countenance. He remarked, I am aware that I am trying. I know you are, I replied, gently. And that is what truly holds significance. The atmosphere in the room shifted, not fading away, yet growing less oppressive. Leo remained still, unwilling to leave as I had anticipated. He chose to stay. Stillness. His gaze locked onto mine as if searching for something he could not find, remarkably precise. The atmosphere surrounding us was charged, and each breath was emphasized by the stillness. At that moment, I addressed Leo with a calm yet resolute tone. Leo, we cannot continue to go in circles. This situation is detrimental to both of us. I know, he murmured, his voice barely rising above a whisper. Yet, I find myself uncertain about how to move beyond it. Let it go. His candor caught me off guard. The sentinel, and I discovered myself inclining closer, gently, as though closing the gap. The bridge we build would span the chasm of feelings. Also, perhaps, I proposed, with careful consideration, you must confront it directly, on. A frown creased his brow, revealing a trace of confusion. The visage before me. What do you mean? I inquired. I paused, my heart racing as I gazed, in search of the fitting expressions. At times, I articulated each word with care. The sole path ahead is to confront it head on, to embrace it completely. His gaze lingered on me, his brow furrowing slightly. His brow furrowed as he absorbed my words. What are you saying? His voice faded into silence, filled with doubt. I gently interrupted, that maybe maintaining nothing within proves to be beneficial. You must permit yourself to experience it profoundly, before you can completely proceed. The expression unveiled a glimmer of understanding. Ava, it's all right. I calmly assured him, resting my hand over his. This is but a fleeting moment, nothing more. At first, he stayed motionless. His gaze locked onto me, the weight of the situation bore down on us both. He then inclined closer. With a sense of uncertainty, our lips finally came together, touching with a delicate anticipation. The gentlest stroke, hesitant, fleeting, yet brimming with feelings that eluded our expression into words. It ended as suddenly as it commenced, creating a profound stillness that felt stifling. Leo recoiled, an amalgamation of astonishment and worry. He stammered, his voice filled with regret, unsteady. I didn't mean to say no, Leo. I interrupted him off, maintaining a steady tone. Do not. He met my gaze and looked for something in my expression. A smile graced my lips as I murmured, wow, I possess quite the striking appearance, brother. I surprised myself by uttering. He took a moment to pause. He leaned in once more, remaining silent. This time, the kiss lingered, rich and profound, undoubtedly, as though we were both propelling the boundaries we had just crossed. We paused momentarily before I shifted my hand, in other realms, urging us past the boundary we had already crossed. His eyes grew wide, resonating with my incredulity. Yet neither of us. We retreated. Together, we allowed it to unfold. Silently, it unfolded beautifully, surpassing anything we could have imagined, anticipated. Our actions were impulsive, and I had to concede the truth. Yet, in that instant, it was a sensation of perfection. It was utterly fantastic. Once everything settled down, we both reclined. They were fully cognizant of what had just transpired. What just transpired? Incredible. Leo exhaled, breaking the silence. The silence envelopes me. Truthfully, I find myself at a loss for words to ponder. It's perfectly fine, I responded. With a swift motion, she interrupted him. It's over, and we can proceed. He grounded me, his gaze filled with silent questions that he remained silent. He stood up gradually, his actions taken with care, as though apprehensive of breaking apart our delicate comprehension. Good night, Ava, he murmured softly. Softly. Good night, I murmured, observing. He walked out of the room. As the door clicked shut behind him, I released a anxiety fills the air, my thoughts swirling in a chaotic dance. The moment was ephemeral, yet it transformed. All things considered, a boundary had been breached that could either illuminate our path or obscure it, issues even more. I was completely unaware of what the future held within, yet for the initial, as the days passed, a flicker of hope began to emerge, that we might navigate this journey side by side. The following morning, an unusual presence lingered within the house, experienced a sense of transformation and buoyancy. Leo became part of the scene. Me for breakfast, his demeanor increasingly more at ease than it had been in days. We casually exchanged thoughts on our plans, the conversation unfolding effortlessly and effortless. It seemed like a progression, and I clung to that hope as the hours came to pass when the moment arrived for me. As the moment to leave approached, Leo guided me toward the door. Liam had not yet made its way back home, which was a solace was a distant notion. I was left to navigate this path on my own. Thank you for staying, Leo murmured, smile. Soft yet sincere. It conveyed indeed, I am pleased with my decision. I took the time to respond. I shall return to us soon. Very well, we shall hold on. Engaging in conversation to resolve this matter, he nodded, with a face full of hope. Indeed, we shall. As I drove away, the house gradually disappeared from my view. The rearview mirror, yet the burden of all that had transpired lingered on, with me. I understood that the days to come would be challenging, yet for the first time for an extended period, it seemed as though we were creating advancement, and that sufficed for the moment. Upon returning to my apartment, existence continued its ordinary rhythm. Yet, regardless of no matter how hard I endeavored to erase that night from my memory, the memory lingered. I discovered myself contemplating Leo more than I intended. Confess, pondering how he was managing and had he received the clarity he sought. Several weeks passed, and my phone buzzed to life. Hello. I wanted to express my gratitude once more. Matters appeared more transparent now. I am managing well. I stared at the message for what felt like an eternity. Before responding, I find joy in the simplicity of taking one step at a time. All right, I find myself constantly. I'm here if you require assistance. His reply was prompt. I am confident that I will be all right. It was not quite a conclusion, yet it marked a step forward, and that sufficed for the moment. Yet, I find myself questioning everything. I find myself pondering the thoughts of others. Was it a mistake? Is there anything I ought to regret? Am I feeling a sense of guilt? I am uncertain. Kindly share your thoughts expressed in the comments. It would signify an abundance